creating ceramic tiles in 3ds Max. The basic way that people generally do is just by creating a plane and then applying a tileable texture of tiles. Now this works fine. You can also get bump maps, and it generally can be suffice. It can be good for the project, but I'm just going to show you how to have that a little more detailed. I'm not going to give you exact parameters to use. I don't think I ever do in my tutorials. You should just play around with the settings and hope to get something right, because that's the best way to learn, definitely. Length and width segments are obviously going to be affecting this method, so I'm going to have 25 by 25, so it looks like it's quite a few tiles. We're going to right click and convert to editable poly and select in polygon, which pressing Ctrl A to select all. We're going to use the inset settings. Just by selecting it, at first it's every single polygon as one huge object. We don't want that. We want the polygon face, so like by polygon. So if we just toggle it by selecting this little icon or using the drop down menu, and we don't want it to be that extreme. So what we're doing is how much we want the little white stuff between it. So something like this is fine for me for this tutorial. And we're going to use bevel settings. Now with bevel settings, it's the same issue. We're just going to choose how much we want to bevel it by. I want to say something like this looks fine for me. Just making sure there's a height to it by going to the side. Yeah, this looks fine. So we're just going to accept this. Already, this should start to look like tiles. And just before you leave this menu, make sure you call this top or make it a selectable at the top there. Just to show you what that means, if I select here and I go back to the first selection, I can just grab it at the top here. Okay, so I'm just going to add a light. The light can be dependent on whatever room you've got. This is something you'd put into a room rather than to be the whole scene itself. So I'm just going to add a very, very simple Omni light with ray traced shadows. So just going to zoom in something like this. Now this is going to be, let's say about here, my camera from now on. So just make it static. Okay, now we're going to start adding textures. So we're going to drag the very first texture, which is going to just be pure white. So on diffuse color, just make it just before white. It's a little bit grey, but and make sure it's assigned to it. This is going to be the texture between the cracks. And I guess maybe you figured out, if we go back to polygon select, we're going to assign the new texture, which is going to be the actual tile itself. So with this new texture, we're going to find a bitmap image. You can find online plenty of textures of marble. I'm just going to find a basic one. This one looks fine actually. I'm lucky first select. I'm just going to tile it. Now already it's starting to look somewhat like marble tiles. I'm actually just going to go a bit closer here. But it's not that impressive. So we're going to change a few textures here. First of all, we're going to add some reflection. And we're going to add ray trace reflection and adjust the trace modes to reflection. Now nothing's really going to show off. It's not going to change. So we're just going to add a dummy scene. So it's not going to look special unless you've got a scene or a environment map. So I'm just going to add a panorama of a kitchen I found. Which is just a simple panorama, and just put it in the environment here just by selecting environment and bitmap. And if we render this, already it's starting to look more like a kitchen tile, but obviously it's really extreme and shiny. So we should bring that down. And we're just going to add some specular level. I did some testing with this beforehand. I guess you see at the very, very start here. If you drag the diffuse straight onto the bump, it doesn't really matter. You don't have to change it. It doesn't have to be a bump map, and we render. you can see it adds some like glossiness to it. So we can actually just disable the diffuse color and change it to a genuine color rather than a bitmap. So if you render this, it looks like a normal tile. This is like a cool... It's not cheating, I guess. It's just a cool tip to make it look like normal black and white tiles. But obviously you can enable your diffuse color. And this is a quick way of making ceramic tiles in 3ds Max. Now lastly, I'll mention it, but it's not that useful. It depends how close you're going in. I'm just going to drag the top up, just for the sake of it being easy to select now. So we're going to select all of the top verts. I wouldn't recommend this unless you're going really, really detailed in. I'm bringing it down again, just so I've got the vert selected. And then I'm going to chamfer. What chamfer does is it can give you some smooth segments around each point. So this is just another way of making it like smooth between each tile. There's so many different types of tiles you can get. Just get perspective here. And you can see that each of these tiles now are really smooth around the edges. We can get some really cool reflections of this. So yeah, I hope this tutorial helped. Thanks and bye.